apologise for the delay. Tonight, the part of Hairy Cookie Monster will be played by a load of other people. Oh, where's my button? Hit the button.
Welcome to your awakening. Please take form as your reality is adjusted.
Try and pick the headphones up really quietly, because the feedback. And volume reset. Hello. Welcome, folks. Welcome back. Greetings and well met. And hello, yes, it is Sol Excalibre on this moon day evening. Back again, clicking buttons, trying to get everything multitasking. I was almost like ready to click the button then. And in the end, I had to say, like, look, I'm clicking the button anyway. And they were all still laughing and joking. It was like, I'm clicking the button anyway. And then get the intro started and all that. Sorry, yeah, I'm just making excuses. I can shut that window down now. Finished excusing that window. And it looks like it's live. Hopefully you can hear me okay and everything. And I'm sure people will post in the chat room. Hopefully, if you can't hear anything, if you can, don't worry about it. But yes, click the button eventually, and we got it going just after 9 p.m. GMT is the usual time I start at. So Gasmas was asking, like, are you starting yet? And he's like, yeah, I'm waiting till 9 p.m. That's when I've sort of set the scheduled time. I think on the actual stream page, for whatever reason, it was just saying waiting for me to start it. So maybe some of the changes that are going on with Google at the moment, because please don't forget things like Google Plus is going away, but the Google Hangouts are remaining. So obviously they're doing lots of software updates and moving of stuff in terms of the architecture of what is YouTube, what we know as the platform YouTube. So there's probably going to be little glitches like that over the coming several weeks until they've done this switch over. I think April 2nd, the Google's Plus is going away. So yeah, could be something to do with that. But the usual start time is 9 p.m. GMT. Obviously, if you're somewhere else on the planet, on the oblate spheroid of the planet, then your time zone will be something different. So you'll need to check what equates to that GMT time zone for you. Before I go anywhere else, something that I've been meaning to say since a couple of weeks, because I've got it in my notes twice for the last couple of episodes, and I never actually did it or getting around to it. So I'll do it this week because it seems good timing and appropriate with everything else that's happening at the moment. And it also, the fact that I want to say this now and I'm saying this now might make more sense to people when they hear some of the other stuff I'm going to mention. Because there is a lot of stuff going on at the moment in this environment. I've talked about this kind of stuff for the past few weeks at least, and it's been building up. So yeah, anyway, I wanted to say thank you to the people who sent me some donation money, because that really did help me out, genuinely helped me out. It wasn't hookers and blow, it wasn't boats and hoes that I was spending money on. It was things like paying for rent and buying food. So, yeah, it's made a major difference to help me get through the past at least 4 months. I've been borrowing money from other people as well, and slowly my situation is getting sorted out. I'm still waiting for 100% confirmation that the system has reinstated my entitlements the way they should be. And once that's, once I've got that confirmation, then I'm back to how things were before I asked for any help with donation money. So thank you very much to the people that have donated. that, like I say, should hopefully be sorted out. I'm going to leave the link in the info box for now. Because over the years, I've had people ask me before, is there some way I can donate to you? I want to just send you some money to help you out, or say thank you for what you're doing, whatever. So I'm going to leave it there for now. But if it becomes just something that is like an appendage, like an appendix, it's just something extra, I'll take it down eventually. It was never my intention to be doing what I'm doing with this channel just to earn money. It's great to get extra help, and if people do send me money and I have no immediate use for it, I repurpose that money and I donate it to somebody else or another cause, like a local charity. There are some charities I feel that are trustworthy. Not all the big ones are, and it's not really helping the situation in any genuine long-term solution to problems with some of the bigger charities. Most of the time you're just throwing your money in a hole and it just gives you a sense of having achieved something or done something. But there are smaller charity groups and non-registered charitable organizations and efforts that go on around you in your own local community, amongst your own social peer group, that there are other ways you can repurpose those little credit notes so that you are hopefully helping people and helping move towards solving problems and making things better and all that usual good hippie stuff. I might mention a few hippie things tonight, but anyway, yeah. I wanted to say that, and it does connect to some of the stuff I'm going to mention, and connects in a way to what I put in the subtitle. Hello in the chat room. I just noticed Steve turned up and I've realised I forgot to send you an invite. I'll send you an invite in a sec, mate. I'll multitask and do it. But it's a good opportunity to say a quick hello to everyone in the chat room. Some early birds in there that were waiting. Gas mask, hello, mate. I saw you in there earlier. Yeah, 9 p.m. GMT, usually starter. And Paula B, hello. I know there's not many, so I should hopefully be able to scroll down quick and say a quick hello to everyone that's in. Lopsum Tathro, hello. Hopefully, I'm getting your name right. I think I sort of twigged on what you meant when you first popped up with that name. Lopsum Tathro. And Dave Iron, hello. I don't know, I saw a couple of other names. Oh, that's Sots. Andy Manchester, hello. And Stewie, hello. And Steve the Goose, hello. Get on to multitasking while I'm talking. So, yeah, the subtitle was knocking around in my head for a little while, like often things are that I come to talk about. When I do these things, I say, what's on Cookie's mind this week? And I know that some people see it as being a bit sort of guru-esque. And I feel that really most of the time they're just projecting their own concerns and their own biases, because a teacher is who you choose to listen to. So if you think somebody's taking the piss or exploiting you or something like that, in effect, the usual derogatory idea of that term guru, then you're your own worst fool if you don't walk away. If you don't think, oh, this guy's just talking bunkum, he's just talking waffle so that he can make people think he's big and clever and all that kind of thing, then walk away. Go and do something better with your time if you feel that you're not learning anything from somebody whose title or name means teacher. If you're not learning anything from this supposed teacher, walk away. Because otherwise you're just falling into your own psychology and projecting onto the person that you're then accusing of being some waffle spouting guru wannabe or whatever. Yeah. But what was on my mind recently, and thinking about the fact it's number 9, this episode is number 9. Some of you might get that reference, kind of. Well, it's partly a cultural reference. It's also an occulted reference. There's a lot of cult in the reference. That's cult with an L, not an N. But it's not that long until the equinox, the spring equinox, is approaching. And as we've mentioned in other episodes recently, we're going to be going into a retrograde soon. It's the time of spring. We're going to be approaching Easter soon. March is a very transformative time period in our naming of the calendar. We call this time of the year March at the moment. This particular month as defined by the number of days, blah blah blah. This calendar calls it March, and there's a lot of transformative effects that go on through this time period. It's spring, it's the age of renewing, of the birthing of new life, all that kind of stuff. It's an uprising energy in spring. As the sun's proximity is getting closer again, you're feeling more of that enthusing energy, because all of your creative abilities, all of the energy that we make use of on this planet originated from that sun, more than likely. There might be some additions in the history of the planet from other donators, and there might be some additions from galactic sources, but the majority of it all comes from that star. So this time period is very energetically rising, and it got me thinking about the number 9, the transformative energy. 9 is the spiral. 9 is the spiral up, not the 6, which is the spiral down. And I know I'm sort of caveating myself in a way in this kind of general speech. I do this quite often, and this will connect again to what I want to mention later on in a bit. But the 6 is the spiral downwards, the negative energy, the returning back to do the same loop again, if you believe in reincarnation, but energy recycles. So is it reincarnation, or is it just the recycling of that energy? But yeah, 9 is the spiral up, and we happen to be in 2019. I know it's a loose connection. There's only one 9 in that number. It's not like it's 999. But there's a 9 in there. And this time period is a time of that rising energy, the birth energy, the creative energy of spring. So I thought, I want to mention some stuff to do with that, and maybe talk about transformative energy. And I'll come back. As I do, I often sort of do a preliminary ramble before I come back to how I tie up the connections that I'm trying to make, even if they are loose. Repurposed, or as another subtitle, breaking the mold. And no, it's not a misspelling. I deliberately spelt it MOLD. I left out the U, because I'm not talking about something like a plastic mold that you use to put jelly in. Breaking the mold by Fun Guy. Fun Guy, he wears a fun gi, but is he really fun? Gee, I don't know. Sort of a little bit of beat poetry just to sort of labour the point. Is he a fun guy? Gee, I don't know. Anyway, maybe some of you will get it. Repurposed by Fun Guy. I'm not going to debate about how you should pronounce that particular word, but I think it's highly unlikely that it's meant to be pronounced fungi when the other description is fungus. So otherwise it'd be fungius. That just makes me strain even harder to pronounce the S's. So what's good? No, fungi. It is a fungi, a fungi. Anyway, what the hell does that have to do with anything? As Gary just typed in the chat, shut up, Cookie, there's no room for that idiocy. Yes, indeed, it is the age of the idiocy. It is the idiocracy. I don't mind a bit of banter and whatever, but if there's any overt crap in the chat, it will get stomped on. I say stomped, I'm not talking about jackboots, but you'll get put on the naughty step for a minute. And if you keep abusing your chat privileges, they will be removed. And everybody, well, I say everybody, a lot of people now be like, oh, my free speech, man. And that's partly what I wanted to talk about. You may not think this is connected into transformative energy, but we shall see. Now, mentioning what I was talking about last week, I've sort of mentioned it a little bit already when I made a deliberate point of describing the planet we live on as an oblate spheroid. It's not flat. Wait for the cheers and wait for the boos. Yeah. But last week, I ranted a fair bit, and I'm quite happy to say I was ranting. It wasn't incoherent ranting. If you think it was, please go back and listen to it again. Yeah, you may want to reconsider. Rambling, maybe. I have a habit of wandering around the bushes and making connections and then coming back on myself to get back on track, etc. So yeah, a little bit rambling, a bit ranty. But if you were offended by what I said last week, then you're going to struggle with a lot of what's going on at the moment and what's going to be coming along within the next month, the next year. We're supposed to be leading up to Brexit, so these effects are going to get worse and worse and worse through this year. But I wasn't offensive as far as I'm concerned. I didn't say anything that was, directly attacking any individual or even any definable demographic or ethnic group or social group or whatever. Something I've learned from doing this kind of stuff over the years is that, sometimes you need to be specific. Sometimes you need to define the details and be careful that you stick within those boundaries of definition. But sometimes it also works well, or it's better to use generalizations to explain what you're trying to get across. And especially when you're talking about things that are principles or foundational concepts that you're building from, and they're being applied to the population as a whole, you usually end up talking in generalities anyway. We can get into masses of statistical data about stuff to do with populations and societies, but that doesn't allow the movement of being able to connect large concepts and large ideas about those concepts and principles without spending a hell of a lot of time trawling through data from statisticians that you then also have to have a certain level of consideration as to whether or not those statistics, those numbers are trustworthy. So in other words, we could sit here and talk about stuff to do with the population and the way things are going in society here in the UK. But if we wanted to do that kind of detailed way of analysing it, we'd need to have this big pile of data about the population numbers, the statistics to do with demographics. The only place you're likely to get them is from the Office of National Statistics, which is an official bureau that is overseen by the government, operated by the government, and to serve the government. So the statistics that come from there cannot be 100% trusted, carte blanche, and cannot be just taken as given. So your problems get harder. It's more mobile, it's more agile to work with generalities. And you adjust your arguments and what you're trying to present so that it works with generalities just as well as it works with providing the details. The other side of that as well, or the other part of that to me is very worthwhile and is a reason that I do things the way I do because I want this to get across, is that if you do that kind of detailed presentation, people just look at you as yet another authority figure or guru, like I mentioned earlier in a derogatory way to make that point. So if you're trying to get across to people that you want them to think for themselves, do their own research, question what they're looking at, think about it critically, before they make any decisions or come to any conclusions or start raising their knees in knee-jerk reactions, then you need to allow them to do that and not just dictate to them a bunch of details that you are sanctioning because it's you saying them. So details can be useful, but generalities allow much more mobility when making arguments about large concepts and principles and foundational stuff. Foundational stuff. That's like the aggregate that you put down before you start pouring the concrete. Stuff is a good word. People think it's not, but it is. It's a generality word. It helps you, plant a flag on a big general pile of stuff. So you can bring things together that, because of the compartmentalization that most people end up being indoctrinated into, the majority of us end up going through that ringer where your mind is, shaped into such a way that you compartmentalize yourself, let alone all the other stuff you're presented with. Sometimes you need to have a cross-disciplinary perspective, so you can bring together information, ideas, and evidence from multiple points of view. Then you'll see what this thing is. Because if you stick to the fences that are created by the compartmentalization, you don't see what's on the other side of the fence. So you have no comprehension of why something might be happening on your side of the fence. Yeah, it's like the horizontal drilling that the fracturing people like to do. Somebody on the other side of the fence doesn't realize their ground is being messed with because it's coming in at an angle. Just to throw in the fracking in there anyway. But yeah, the reason I wanted to just rant a little bit again about this stuff this week. Last week, I did not tell anybody what to think. Because a comment was made that I was telling people, I told them what to think. I didn't. If you believe that, please go and listen to it again. I've learned to be quite careful with the words I use and the way I use them. And that's not to be deceptive. That's to alleviate a lot of these hurdle points, tripping points, quagmires, pitfalls, traps, whatever you want to call them, but sticking points that people fall over with a lot. So, for example, what I was saying about the guru kind of projection. I'm not trying to be a guru. I'm not running my own little harem here. I don't have 13 gold-plated Rolls Royces. I'm not trying to exploit money out of people. I'm not trying to rip them off or mess with them in some fashion. So if you have that kind of perception, that's a sticking point that will slow down your own progress. So I caveat myself fairly often. And I try to talk in such a way where hopefully it comes across to the listeners, to the viewers, that I'm trying to, I'm putting this back on you, basically. I'm saying, look, you do your own research, you do your own thinking. And multiple times last week, I said that kind of thing. Think about it for yourself. Because that was the other comment that was raised, is I'm telling people that they are incapable of thinking for themselves because of what I was describing about how certain propaganda that's being pushed around at the moment is deliberately designed to mess with people's ability to think clearly. And it is. I'm sorry if you feel that it's not, but there is a lot of stuff out there. It has been for a long time. You could say this goes back throughout the annals of recorded history. Now the effect is 100,000 times worse. And yeah, that's a simplistic exaggeration, but because of the kind of intercommunication ability that we have now, the effect of those kinds of propaganda vehicles are immensely worse in the amount of damage they can do to entire societies, entire cultures, entire ethnic groups can be affected by a propaganda vehicle that is picked up and carried by people that are suckered into accepting it as given. because they've been spoon-fed the information and they've relied on the authority figure that gave it to them to just run with it. So I did not say people were incapable of thinking for themselves. I actively encourage people to think for themselves. But I also encourage people to improve their toolbox, improve your ability to think for yourself. It's one thing to say think for yourself, but if all you know is how to add up simple calculations, then there's only so many calculations you can deal with. So when presented with highly complex and highly interrelated causal factors for things that are happening in your world around you that will potentially have some kind of effect on you, then you can't deal with them. You struggle to deal with them, would be a better way to say it. You know, you might give up on trying to deal with them because you find the comprehending of all the details and what's going on and how it's all interlocking into this big jigsaw puzzle is just too much for you. So you give up and you go, oh, fuck it, let the politicians deal with it. And this is a lot of what the system is relying on. Creates so much confusion that people just give up, go about their day and hope that the shit never lands on their doorstep. So in other words, they stop thinking, which is why I've stressed this point for years. I think I can fairly confidently say go back to at least 2012. And in one way or another, I'm saying the same kind of stuff. Think for yourself. Look into this stuff for yourself. It's no good me just giving you information, giving you details, spoon feeding you stuff. You have to figure this stuff out for yourself. Because it's only when you do, it's only when you go through that process, your own process for yourself, that you grow and you develop a more empowered ability within yourself to look at this kind of information and process it for yourself. So then I don't have to sit here and go, oh no, you shouldn't look at that information. You shouldn't look at that information. That was another thing. I've never told people what to do with their channel or their output. What I was talking about last week was trying to describe that element of propaganda that is deliberately designed to psychologically interfere with people's ability to reason and look through information and figure things out for themselves. That's why I use that extreme example, I know, but that's why I use that example of violent pornography. You show somebody violent pornography, their mental state will be unbalanced for a while until they work their way through what the fuck they've just been shown and start sort of, you know, getting back into their normal stride and trying to comprehend why and what it was they were just shown. Why was I shown that? In a similar fashion, there are very well-established groups that are out there that work for the system directly, the corporatist governmental infrastructure, but also for individuals and private groups, secret societies and shit like that. There are groups out there that are very well versed in how we work, how we think, and what we are likely to do and what we are likely to choose. Game theory is not just about what number to bet on when playing roulette. It's about predicting people. So this idea of me telling people what to do with their channel, bogus. I'm not telling you what to do with your channel. I'm telling you about the problems that can occur based on what you're doing with your channel. What you then choose to do with your channel is up to you. It's your choice. I was trying to make the point that the more you add to this pile of crap that is distracting people and interfering with their thinking, then you're just making the problem worse. You're not alleviating the problem. Whereas if you help people improve their own brain muscle by developing the toolbox that they have when they approach these kind of questions and curiosities, then the less time and energy people will spend poking around in that pile of crap, and they'll just move on and get on with something more beneficial to themselves in some way. And they'll also add less energy to the pile. Therefore, the pile will not get bigger and have that exponential effect on other people as well. If you want to, just a kind of like a reference point when I'm talking about those kind of groups that are very well developed and know about how to manipulate people individually and en masse in groups, in demographics, then please go and look into the Tavistock Institute. Do some research about them. That's just one data point in a lot of potential references that you'll find. You know, if you just go and look into that one, it will give you a springboard to lots of other stuff as well. But there are a lot of people whose sole job is to spend their time and energy developing ways to manipulate the population en masse. So when you come into an environment of public discourse, if you think that you can just, you know, like you're wearing some kind of shit retardant suit, that you can just walk through this and be doing your thing and the shit will just bounce off you and you won't take any of it with you and you won't be spreading it to other people. And so, no, this environment is not like that. If anything, it's the other way around. As soon as you start doing this kind of public stuff, you become a shit magnet. There's always somebody or some group out there that just wants to throw crap at you because they see you as competition, or they are ideologically opposed to what you're doing or what you're saying, so they just want to shut you down, stop you speaking, etc., etc. So anyway, that is a good point to bring me on to that point of allowing you to speak or not. The one other thing that just to make clear, I know I've said this many times in the past in one way or another, maybe not directly in this fashion, so I'll say it now. I never started doing this thing with the intention of being entertainment. I could possibly call it edutainment because, I use elements of entertainment. I will use a little bit of comedy, basically, most of the time. You know, basically is a bit of a qualifier word, I know, but I use entertainment or the element of entertainment because I take inspiration from people like Bill Hicks and George Carlin. I've learned the lesson over the years that if you're going to tell somebody a truth, make sure you make them laugh before you do, because otherwise they'll probably kick the shit out of you. And that's a big part of reality. You try to tell people something true, or you try to help them realize the truth for themselves, and they think you're trying to abuse them. They think you're trying to steal from them. They think you're trying to kill them. So they defend themselves because, in a way, you are destroying their perception of the world. And it is a natural reaction to protect, to self-preserve. So if you're attacking somebody's very perception of what reality is or what society is or what their nation state is, then they get defensive. That's what people do. Tavistock knows this shit. So I never came here to be an entertainer per se. I don't do what I'm doing just to be entertainment. I know some people view it as a bit of a laugh and they see it as just entertainment, but that's on them. That's not what I'm doing. If they can't learn anything from what I'm doing, that's on them. If at least they get some energetic joy out of having a laugh, that's great. At least it helps spread that energy of joy. But I'm not here to be an entertainer. I'll use a bit of comedy, and I can be a bit sarcastic and sardonic with that comedy. And I'm not doing it to personally attack people. If ever I am personally attacking somebody, I'll say their name. I'll point at them directly. But most of the time I'm doing it as a way of alleviating the fear and the stress that people feel whenever you present them with something or ideas that may be unknown to them, or maybe something that has been built up into a fear because of state propaganda. I say state propaganda, it's not just state, but I'm sure most people know what I'm trying to say and will get the point. But they're stopping people from talking. And this question of free speech, it was It was said in one way of like genuine free speech. And I just sort of, like, you can't stick an adjective on it like that. It's either free speech or it's not. That's what the definition defines. Free speech, you can say whatever you want, even if it's offensive or whatever, just say whatever you want. But saying it's genuine free speech, that's like there's a faux free speech version that's accessible, or fake free speech version, which means you're diluting the meaning of free speech, which is relativism, and denigrates or negates the effectiveness of free speech. So you're sort of contradicting yourself by using a phrase like genuine free speech. To me, that's almost the same as saying I'm not free speech, but I want you to think I am, so I'm saying genuine free speech. But that's part of the problems of the situation in this environment, and the way mainly the system itself is trying to create confusion in this environment. So it creates just continuous argumentation or continuous stumbling blocks, so people don't actually progress. They just trip over their own tail and go round in little circles. Or they're forever chasing leprechauns or rabbits or whatever, thinking that they're going to find a solution in some magic fairy. And this goes on and on and on and on. But this question of free speech, a big part of the confusion that they've been working on for quite a while now, a number of years, and we're starting to see it coalesce very much, emanating in the kind of personalities such that we've been seeing recently in the media, maybe more on the what's supposedly the alternative media, but these personality types who are meant to be thought leaders or trendsetters, and they are being used to appropriate the very concept of free speech and supposedly, allegedly champion that free speech or the ideal of free speech, but then actually drive it into an area where it can be fenced off and designated and compartmentalized. So in other words, it's no longer free speech, because if there is a limitation on what you're allowed to say, that's the equivalent of offense. Another part of this that is deliberately ignored for the benefit of the system and the confusion of the thinker, usually it's the person listening to whoever's claiming their right to free speech. One of the other things that's left out of that equation is, if you've got the right to free speech, I've got the freedom to not listen. I've got the freedom to walk away. I've got the freedom to click the off button. I've got the freedom to close my front door and not have to listen to your sales bullshit anymore. Free speech doesn't mean that you now all of a sudden have a right to force me to listen. That would be the equivalent of you having the right to enter my home at any point in time, whether I'm sleeping or doing whatever, and come and start talking in my ear, because you've got this right to talk. I've got to talk, therefore you've got to listen. This is the misconception and misdirection that is being constantly reinforced with the public consciousness. They don't ever mention this reality that you have the right to walk away, that you have the right to not listen, you have the right to disagree. You're perpetuating the exchange of free speech. One guy says his thing, you get to say your thing. That's the exchange of free speech. But if you decide that whatever this free speech person is saying is not for you, you don't believe it, you don't accept it, you know other facts that debunk what this guy is saying, you've got the right to just walk away. You're not required to expend the energy to disprove that person. That's part of that contrick of argumentum ad infinitum. let's present a topic that most people think is crazy and strange, and then demand that the listener disproves me. So in other words, you've forcibly dragged that person into some kind of responsibility of debunking or arguing with whatever you're saying. Argumentum ad infinitum. Under this disguise, the delusionment, the corruption of the definition of free speech. I'm not here to be an advocate for certain ideas, certain ideologies, certain ways of life, certain ways of thinking that I disagree with, that I find to be unhelpful, unhealthy, disempowering, debilitating. List off stream of adjectives and synonyms and similes to describe the same thing. Why would I do that with my own channel? Why? I want to be able to express my right of free speech here, and you retain the right to turn it off if you think this guy's talking shit. I've had enough of this now. Click that X button. Go and do something else. But I reserve my right to that free speech, and I have the opportunity here to express that. There are other ways I could be doing it, but I've got accessibility to certain accessibility at the moment, until they keep cracking down on it and bringing the fences closer and closer in. So I choose to not talk about or advocate certain ideas on my channel, because I don't think they're helpful to the audience that I'm trying to help. I mentioned earlier, I'm not here to be an entertainer. For me, the majority of what I'm doing with this channel is trying to help people. If you find that some kind of sticking point, what else can I say to you? I don't know. I probably could think of other ways of presenting that reply, but whatever. If you keep sticking on that point, then it's sort of, well, what is it that you are looking at? And there's plenty of channels here on YouTube that don't give a fuck about helping you. All they want to do is exploit you. All they do is ask you for money all the time. All they do is set up schemes where they try to get you to send them money or send them stuff. Thousands and thousands and thousands of channels do that. I say, hey guys, I'm not doing that. And it gets misrepresented and inverted. And now all of a sudden I'm trying to stop you from doing what you want to do. You're a bit fucking mad or a bit messed up. Your thinking is not clear. You're not really working your way through that thought process. You just get into a knee-jerk reaction stage and reacting. So, yeah. I'm not trying to stop you from having your free speech. If you want to talk about that kind of stuff, you do that on your channel. I'll just not listen to it, because I've got the right to not listen, and I've got the right to not propagate it if I choose not to. That was another major thing from last week that I was trying to stress and get across. I choose to not help propagate those particular topics, because I think they are, like I mentioned with the other stuff, disempowering, debilitating, distracting, unhealthy. If you disagree, fine, you disagree. You go and do those things if you want to do. And if you think I'm being condescending and morally judgmental, then again, what else can I say to you? I'm not coming round your house and standing over you while you're on your computer and saying, oh, no, you're not allowed to type that. No, you can't do that. Am I there at your house now doing that? No. So how am I stopping your free speech? Or is it just that you want to feel that I'm stopping your free speech because I've said something that disagrees with you? I've countered something that you've said. It's as simple as that, really. The other thing I've thought about doing tonight, but considering in my habit as I have, and I waffle on a fair bit, I ain't really got time because it's a fairly long article, and I want to get into mentioning the other stuff that I had on my little list and in my subtitle. But the one other thing I was going to do tonight, let me just stretch that out so I can get the full link correctly without it breaking the link. Copy that and I'll paste it in the chat, and hopefully Google will allow me to do that. If I'm allowed my free speech on Google. That's a link to an article that I've shared many times over the years since it was posted, because I think it's a good amalgamation of information that's readily available out there if people bother to do the work, to follow the paper trail and see the connections. The guy who wrote the article has put a lot of that together into one place, so it saves you a bit of time, and some of it is linked and referenced, so you can go and check it out for yourself and cross-reference it and stuff like that. I'll do a quick screen share of the article just so people know, sort of get an idea of what I'm talking about, and I will mention it verbally in a sec, so that if people are just listening, they know what I'm referencing rather than me just amorphously referring to something that they can't see. Right, hopefully that should be screen sharing. Yeah, it looks like it is. Okay, yeah, it's on a site called wideshut.co.uk, which is a site owned and run by a guy called Keelan Balderson, who does occasional podcasts every now and then, and he writes some articles. There's quite a lot of good articles on his site. If you're interested, this is very much from a UK perspective, even though he will talk about geopolitics and things like that. He's in the UK, and he's primarily concerned with the situation in the UK. But this is an article on wideshut.co.uk titled "Who Are the English Defence League?" And it's describing the formation of the English Defence League. I nearly said English Defence Lemons then. That was a joke from way back then. But the other main sort of purpose or content of the article is about the individual Stephen Yaxley Lennon, or Stephen Lennon as he's named in this first paragraph. And of course, he's quite a popular character at the moment, and he's certainly all over your media, even a little bit on the mainstream media. He's primarily on the alternative media. But, if you're in the UK, you've probably seen his face on some site somewhere or some video. And the article goes to quite an extent of talking about the beginnings of the EDL and Lennon's connection to those beginnings. And it makes a lot of connections, gives you a lot of information, evidence, and reasoning to demonstrate that this guy's agenda is nothing to do with helping the population of the British Isles in general. He's got other agendas that are more his driving force. He's a self-admitted Zionist. And at the time when I first saw the one video of when somebody asks him that question, and he says, yes, I'm a Zionist. And then they ask him, well, do you know what Zionism is? Do you know what it means? And he was just like, Israel first? And, obviously demonstrating a lack of knowledge or comprehension or expenditure of energy on thought process. He hadn't spent a lot of time thinking about it, basically, is what I'm saying. But just in that one first sentence and reply that he makes, it's clear that, well, if you're a Zionist, mate, and Zionism equals Israel first, then how can you claim you're trying to help the UK people? Because you would put the Israeli people first if you're a Zionist. So what is it you're doing? And I'll put the link in the main chat if people want to go and check it out for themselves. Read through it. Like I said, it's It's not a massive article, but it is a bit too long for me to read through it now. It'd take me probably the next hour to read it, especially if, as I do, I interject to make comments and whatever. I'm expressing my free speech, man. But yeah, there was that, which I thought connected to what I was talking about last week. I'm not telling people what to think, but at least spend a bit of your thinking energy considering some of the connections and some of the information presented in this article. You need to look at, well, it's a bit of an idealistic possibility or idealistic requirement to say you need to look at all variables. There's going to be a few variables that you're probably not even aware of, but you look as many as you can deal with, that you can access and deal with. And again, people misrepresent what I say and claim that I'm trying to avoid certain information. Things like, no, just stop it with your silliness. Is the nice way of saying it. So anyway, it brings me to, I know this is going to sound like a weird jump or connection, almost like a non sequitur, but in the talking about generalities of principles and foundational ideas and concepts, repurposed or breaking the mold by Fun Guy. A lot of what's going on at the moment is the manipulation of people's concepts of morals and ethics. May sound a bit simplistic, but that is a large part of what's going on at the moment. The media, which includes all forms of media, so there is no differentiation between mainstream and alternative and independent and all that. It's all forms of media. All forms of media are being used in that contest between those who claim they have some authority over everybody else and their dictates of what is or is not moral, and the mass body of everybody else, the majority that is the everybody else, who have a varying, it might be slightly varying depending on where they are in the planet, what culture they come from, things like that. But there are some commonalities of the moral perceptions of the mass of the people. When you look at it statistically, demographically, the majority of people agree on the majority of moral arguments, such as don't kill, don't steal, do no harm. But the system that has a position of exclusivity and rarefied environment, in other words, they have a specialized privileged lifestyle, they have a position of desire and privilege. I say desire in the sense that they can have near enough anything they want. Whatever their desire is, it can be served up to them. They have so much power and so much reach and wealth of resources, etc., that whatever they want, whatever crazy ideas run through their head, they can just click their fingers and there it is. And I don't mean there it is by magic. But that, statistically, the number of those people that have some kind of fucked up moral idea or idea of morals or no idea of morals, that number is very, very, very small compared to the mass of the population. Those in that privileged position that claim some kind of authority have a higher propensity to exhibit those bad morals or lack of morals. So the smallest percentage statistically that think some of the moral stuff we talk about is bunkum or useless or whatever are also the ones that are most likely to be immoral or to succumb to immorality. That puts a hell of a lot of weight of power to push the concepts of immorality onto the vast majority of everybody else. And again, like I was talking about earlier about it can slow down a discussion if you end up going through loads of details to make your argument. If I now present you with just a mountain slide of information, of evidence about how the media has slowly been building up this moral relativism, such that the levels of degeneracy and apathy towards what would normally be called or considered immoral has just escalated. There is also a feedback effect. I think there is, and I can debate this. There is a feedback effect created by the isolation that is felt, or the illusion of isolation that is felt by the use of social media. So the more social media people consume, the more isolated they feel, the more disconnected or disenfranchised they feel to any moral compunction or concern for others. So in other words, it's like the bystander effect on steroids. So immorality increases. And as the circus effect amplifies anything that has shock value or controversy value, then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that feeds on itself. More people will post more shocking content. More people look at that shocking content. So the requirements for more shocking content to be created will increase. So more people will create more shocking content. And on and on and on it goes, exponentially grinding. So these people who have a difficulty with morals have a difficulty within themselves. And this was really the main point I wanted to get, and why I was wording it in that kind of way, repurposed by fungi. Because for the majority of people I know, I've encountered a few people who maybe have made use of some kind of entheogen and had one really bad experience, and then they've stayed away from it forever. And some people do have a kind of allergic reaction or something. Their system is just not able to deal with the processing of the chemicals that are included in these kind of plant substances, plant medicines. So they stay away from it. But the majority of people I know who have made some kind of use that is not just hedonistic, it's not just purely for pleasure, distraction of wobbly pictures and hallucinations and that kind of stuff. The majority of people have, whether they've dealt with it well or not, but they have had experiences that have helped reshape their lives in one way or another. It might not be something radical. It might be something quite simple. It might be something that to an outsider might seem meaningless or inane, but to the person experiencing it, it could have a lot of meaning. It could be something as simple as you put your left shoe on rather than your right shoe on first when you get dressed in the morning. Yeah? But to the person having that experience of a change, of a reshaping of their own existence, it might seem important. It might have a lot of relevance to them for other reasons in their life, historical reasons that in their experience that they've had. Yeah. Morals, I'm talking from my own point of view here. I'm not quoting academics or other thinkers' points of view on stuff. I'm talking from my own point of view. And some of what I say might be similar to what other people have said. I don't know, but I'm just saying it anyway, because it's my freedom of speech, bitches. But morals is an internal thing. It's subjective. It's internal gut instinct. And when I say subjective, I don't mean that, it's just in your perception that something bad happened, mate. I mean, no, you interpret it and you internalize it in your own way. You are upset or outraged by something immoral in the way you are outraged. Your outrage will not be identical to everybody else's, because they have a different perspective on what they're looking at. So their image of what they're perceiving will have a very slight coloration difference to yours from their own personal experiences, their own subjective point of view. But the reaction that we call morals, which is where your own your own internal instinctual drives, your gut instinct to react to something that we would later on label immoral. So you see one person killing another, and you have a gut instinct to react to that's wrong. You're defining it, and at that moment, you're defining it as immoral, a gut instinct, immediate reaction. And I'm using murder as the example, but I'm sure you can think of a more, a lesser degree example, and you can relate how you've seen or experienced something like that in your own life. Yeah. When you see something bad happening, you get that gut instinctual reaction of that's bad. And you just know it's bad. You might not know what to do about it or what's caused it to happen, but you have that instinct that says, no, that's wrong. That is immoral. That's morals. Morals are personal from a personal point of view. But then, as collective beings, as social beings that we are, because we're not isolated individuals, some may be on the planet here and there, yeah, but the majority of us live in groups. We live in societies. We work together, or at least try to, when we're not trying to hit each other. But we work in groups. We're social beings. So at some point, those questions, those discussions about what defines moral and immoral get talked about. And people say, well, I find, he murdered him and I think that's wrong. And the other people in your social group say, yeah, I think it was wrong as well. So as a group, we're all agreeing to agree that as we define it, is an immoral act. It's wrong. So we could, if we want to codify that in a way that is like a group agreement, we can do that. And we call that ethics. So ethics is the collective externalization of a codified agreement about things that are good or bad as we perceive them within our interactions with each other. And those morals, like I say, come from a personal gut instinct. Ethics get agreed on in committee. They're the externalization. And they've been very much appropriated under the claim of authority of the governmental institutions or the royal, the monarchies that claim they have some kind of right to authority over everyone else. They've appropriated that job of having the committee meetings and deciding what is ethical or unethical, and then writing that down, or putting it into some kind of codex, or some way fixing it into the externalized 3D reality. Maybe I should say 4D reality, because it's meant to last over time and it gets passed from one to the next to the next. And these things are used to define the societies we live in, that we participate in. But now, in this time, we're in a situation where the majority of what we're told is ethical does not match with our instinctual moral gut reaction. So we're told that it's ethical that young children can be given chemicals that negate their puberty process, such that their reproductive organs, their genitalia, will not develop properly, so that they can feel like they're the other sex, that is the opposite to what they were when they started. And that is supposedly ethical. But the moral instinctual reaction, maybe this is just me, like I said, I'm talking my own opinions and ideas. My moral instinctual reaction is to say that is absolutely immoral. You could not call that ethical in any way whatsoever. But that's what we're told by the authorities, by the structure that claims it knows better than us. It claims it knows better than my own gut instinct. That when I look at a young child, that I should just stand back and do nothing and not even say anything when people come along and go, oh, little kid, you like wearing dresses, here you go, have these pills. That little boy is now going to become a little girl. Maybe it'll be something in between, but it's going to become something else. And that, for me, that's not the kind of transformative energy that I think is beneficial for us individually and as a mass, as a whole, as a singular organism, a grouping of individual beings that live together as a collective. But the entheogens, the fungi, and the other plant medicines that are available to us, they help people reconnect to that internal gut instinct, trying to say internal and instinct at the same time, that internal gut instinct that is subjective to their own life experience and their perceptions of this reality. And I can't, like I say, I can't look at questions like that and just ignore them and think that they're moral or that they're good because some committee says they're ethical. I can't do that. Do one more screen share. It's a little bit cliched, but a cliche is a truism that just gets repeated so often that people get fed up of hearing it. So they start to hate on it because they're fed up of being reminded how they're not living up to an ideal. You know, then they feel that they're not matching up to the expected perfection. Therefore, I will project dissatisfaction at this cliche. I think a lot of the times we all trip ourselves up by internalizing that kind of inversion. You know, just because something's a cliche doesn't mean it's untrue or has no value. Just because you're fed up of hearing it, that's probably just because you're fed up of not being able to achieve what the idea is. You shouldn't beat yourself up for not getting there yet. You just keep working on it. Not everything is achievable in that kind of fashion. It is a process. The purpose is the process, not the conclusion. But to kind of try and summarize why I was connecting these things together. The thinking for yourself, the doing your own research, and retaining your right to free speech, whether it causes offense or not, and also your right to not listen if somebody is saying things that you've had enough of hearing, or if they claim some kind of divine right to invade your privacy and demand that you hear what they have to say. No. I have the right to not listen, just as much as I have the right to say something. That's the internalized, moral, instinctual reaction. Fungi, plant medicines can help reconnect with that. And over the years, I've found that they've helped many people repurpose their perspective, their energy, and what they do with their energy and where they give their attention and what they spend their time on and what they consider to be worthwhile or valuable or healthy or good. They're the ones making their definitions of morals from their own subjective point of view. Breaking the mold. The mold is the ethical stranglehold, the chains that are attempted to be applied by the external, non-living, most of the time non-physical in its conceptual sense. They are just ideas that get passed from one mind to another. They're mimetic more than anything else. But trying to create a control system that decides from an outside point of view what is a moral good or a moral bad, moral or immoral. These fungi, these plant medicines that people have made use of for thousands of years have some kind of transformative energetic ability. That's how they've developed. That's how they exist. They take stuff, material, materia, whatever you want to call physical material. They take material that is dying off, that is decomposing, and they transform it into new creative energy that helps them. It helps their existence. And it can help us by reinvigorating that energy within ourselves, that creative energy. And this is, I know it's not exactly the right time of the year, the right season to be talking about shrooms and stuff like that. But for me, it's about the transformative periods in the year and in longer cycles. The year is just part of a decade is just part of a century. And these are things that are just based on calendrical notation. When you start connecting it to other elements of life and our interactions with each other, there are other cycles that emanate in this kind of way as well. This time period of the year is a transformative energy. Fungi embody that transformative energy. This is about repurposing how you perceive the world, but not in a forced fashion. You do this of your own choice. In the same way as when people come to you trying to present with you their propaganda, by your own choice, you consume it or not. You stay and listen, or you walk away. You're not denying them their free speech. They still get to say whatever it was they want to say. But if there's nobody there to listen, the idea never spreads. So if it's a dangerous idea, if it's an unhealthy idea, it stops there with that one proponent. Never goes anywhere else. Hopefully, I'll demonstrated, that may be the wrong word completely, but hopefully I've woven that yogurt together in such a way that it might actually look like something that is plaited, maybe. I was thinking about it a fair bit, and I'm confident it's not a non sequitur. There are things about the questions that are going around at the moment that are often quite popular, such as what is the planet we live in, what is the shape of the thing we're living on? It's one of those questions that's quite interesting to a lot of people, because people like a controversial idea. Makes it more interesting, makes it more fascinating. It's like hearing stories about leprechauns or the gods or whatever, things that grab people's attention. But that kind of transformation within the thinking process of people is similar to the effect of transformation that is carried by something that we call fungus, that grows in the same environment as we do, whether you think it's a planet or a plane or a cube or whatever. Fungus grows here. And when we ingest the fungus, we can have transformative experiences. And to caveat myself one more time, I'm not talking about turning into a Baphomet or any of the other sticking points that so many religious theologies get stuck on, or even non-religious ideologies, get stuck on the idea like, oh, you're trying to turn yourself into something that's not really human, like cybernetics and transhumanism and stuff like that. Reconnect with what you really are first, which includes that element that we call morals, which come from the instinctual emotional reaction to something in your environment. This system is very much about drawing you out of yourself and convincing you that something that is just a concept that exists over the horizon, according to them, that you will eventually get to as long as you keep rowing. Yeah, when they beat the drum, you keep rowing towards that. Right, we'll get there soon. It's an externalization that you may never actually experience any kind of reality of. It's just something you're told about. That's the equivalent of the claim of ethics and how a committee can decide what's healthy for the organism as a whole, when the organism already knows how to self-regulate. If it didn't, it wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have got this far already if we didn't already know or have learned how to self-regulate. So there's a lot of morals that have been in existence for a long time, and they've helped us get this far. So now all of a sudden they're telling us that those things don't count anymore. So what is it you're trying to transform us into? That's why I wanted to suggest the shrooms again. Like I say, it's not the right season, so unless you're planning to order them online from somewhere. It's not the right season for them, but there is still this spring energy which is transformative as well. Things springing into life and new buds shooting, things like that. Yeah, anyway, I'll shut up now. Hopefully that made sense. I've probably left something out or missed something out or forgotten to say something that I wanted to say, but I'll get the opportunity to say it again at some point. Yeah, jump in whenever you want, guys. Sorry, I've stretched it out a little bit.
No,
I
fine.
think.
Go on, Gary. No, go on, you go.
I thought up something the other day, and this is unrelated, and I'm not going to wait for the time when it's right. But, seeing Jordan Peterson and people like that coming up with their order out of chaos. Yeah? And I was thinking that I'm going to draw a meme up at some point, and it's going to put order out of chaos with a little question mark. And I'm saying, no, that's wrong. It's out of chaos comes coact. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
From chaos is coact. Do you know what I mean? Because chaos, is the consciousness of, the above, if you like, in which everything is always moving. You've seen those videos on the Suspicious Observer channel where you've got these filaments of galaxies, it's just breathing and moving all the time. That's chaos. But there's one step away from that is when you realize that you have consciousness and it becomes a coact. So instead of, order out of chaos, you've got coact out of chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Co-acting, two people acting.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah? But, if you can get it as a nice sort of catchy little, sentence, it sort of, boom, goes in there. Because they're always talking about chaos as if there's something fundamentally bad in the universe and people have to come along and put it right. But no, it's the other way. It was fundamentally good, It's giving people the choice that is made bad, that is created bad.
It could also be argued that it's only within our perception that things seem ordered because of our linear experience and the way we create definitions to help us filter the information coming in from our senses. That's, it's an illusion of order. Everything is chaos. I may seem to be sat still in a chair in a room, but actually I'm flying through space at however many thousand miles an hour. I know some people say there is no space. Well, that's up to them. I disagree. There is space and we are traveling through it. So in a way, my position in time and space is chaotic. I've got no control over the direction. I'm being dragged along in the wake of other things that are happening around me. That's chaotic. Yeah.
Well, Trump causes a lot of chaos.
I'm going to say, you got to be careful, or an uncontrolled Trump might cause problems. No, that just makes me laugh too much. I can't even say it properly.
I wrote down just what you're saying before. I put down limited awareness of things, and the media and academia reinforce all that. Don't ask too many questions, as you were saying when you were talking before.
Sorry to jump in, but as an example of what you're describing, think of things like war propaganda or the propaganda for DDT. When they were spraying that, I remember seeing the films of them spraying it directly in the faces of the little kids. Yeah, and this was basically Agent Orange, DDT. And they were telling the public, oh, it's fine for you to kill all the mosquitoes and the lice and you ain't got to worry about it. And they're spraying it right in people's faces.
Yeah, dioxins and all sorts of shit.
Well, the propaganda about thalidomide.
Mm.
Nothing dangerous about it, folks. Shut up and take your pills. And then you have this generation of kids that are born disabled in some fashion. The propaganda is fucking everywhere.
And you were saying, Cookie, you can stay and listen to something, or you can walk away from it if you don't like it, you know.
Yeah.
But it's also important for me, as you touched on briefly, you can also challenge it. You know, it's not just like a passive sort of, you know, to click X if I don't like it. You can also challenge something. You know, that's within your rights as well, isn't it?
Well, that's the whole idea when you put yourself out there into a public space, is it not?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You expect that to be the way, you know, it is.
Yep.
People who come along and try and challenge that and break that up and, you know, try and confuse everybody about that, you know, is what's causing all the problems, isn't it? I mean, it is just what it is, you know. If you didn't want to say anything, you wouldn't say anything. If you didn't want to put yourself out there publicly, or if you didn't want to write it down, you wouldn't write it down. You might just want to think it. You know, it's how we are as humans, how we develop. Some people might grow in confidence and want to actually speak out. But then you expect, if you are speaking out and there's an audience, then you're going to get a reaction, you know. So it might be good or bad or whatever, but it's how you know, it's just, if you like what we do on here, you know.
That's right, because with the free speech, you've got the free speech, but that comes with the responsibility and consequence of what you're saying as well. You know what I mean? When you're talking, I was talking there about genuine free speech. You know, it's almost comical. It's almost like an oxymoron. I think for me anyway, free speech is a singular concept. It's like truth. Obviously, what is or what has occurred. Otherwise, it sort of leads to moral relativism. We've discussed that before as well.
And unless somebody, like, in that relationship of the person claiming their right to free speech and the listener claiming a right to contest what is being said, in the same way, the original speaker has the right to not reply unless they're being accused of something criminal. That's my line on it. You know, so that's my point of view on it. Maybe people have different ideas, but as long as you're not being accused of doing something criminal, you're not under any requirement to reply to anything that's said to you. So if the way I look at it is, if I say something online and somebody comes along and says something that's just like a tired old stereotype, you know, like conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hatter, I claim the right to not even bother replying to that, because it's not worth the waste of minute.
I think that falls into the line of that's the consequence. That's the risk the person's ran. You know what I mean? If they've thrown something out there that's of no merit at all, and you've chosen to ignore it, then that's the consequence that they've got to deal with. You know what I mean? With their free speech.
Exactly. But we're here to, as you said, to help people see that, isn't it? Point out the psyop, point out the manipulation, point out the propaganda, and the control of you. You know, the control of how you're thinking and everything. You know, that's what we're here to point out. That's what I've always been here to do. You know, to point that out to people and realize themselves who they are and all the good stuff. Yeah, that's why I did it. That's why I do it. I don't do it for any other reason. You know, it's just that, you know, if people, I don't know. Anyway, I'll shut up. I've lost my thought. Go on, carry on.
Your free speech has been stolen.
Yes, I can't think. Yeah.
You mean we're not here to form a political movement or anything?
Well,
we're
no,
here
it's just
to try and deal with individuals.
It's to point out your own. Yeah, like the people on the ground, we're all the same. We're all getting on with this existence that we've, you know, that we've got to live in, the reality, and that, and then they're trying to, you know, yeah, go on.
I was going to say every group is made up of individuals.
Yeah.
But I'm not making a deliberate effort to try and create and organize a structured group. So when you say we're not here to organize a political group, yeah, I'm not trying to organize a political group, but I'm talking to individuals. And if those individuals choose to go and do something like a group, I'm not saying they shouldn't. Yeah, I don't want people to think that when you say talking to individuals, you know, we're trying to force people to remain individuated from each other. Not at all. It's just that when we're talking about these kind of ideas, these are things that you need to think about for yourself. Again, there's that point. Go through your own process. And then if you choose to get involved with a group, great, that's up to you. That's what you do. Yeah. But yeah, to me, it's about talking to individuals. I'm not trying to set up a group, you know, stage for people to talk on.
Yeah, it's nice to recognise people in the chat as individuals, or try to, and that's the big difference. You're making a video where, you know, you think, oh, I'm talking to such and such individual people about being an individual, as opposed to somebody like Jonesy, who is, you know, just trying to talk to the masses, and that's the kind of audience he gets.
Yeah, well, just want to point that out as well, that Joe Rogan and that other one, Jonesy, taking a great big shite on everybody, questioning anything. You know, I mean, terrible. What? How dare they say what they said on that fucking thing? You know, they're
Aye,
just
man.
doing an absolute disservice to anyone who wants to think about anything, and then trying to lump in schizophrenia with things. I mean, I don't know if anyone's seen. I only managed to watch the first 10 or 15 minutes of that, and that was enough for me to realise where they're both at, and Jonesy are sucking his way back into Rogan's breast, you know, and all the rest of it. It's sad. And then the millions of views it seems to attract is even sadder.
Remind me again, who was it when Jones was banned from YouTube? Who was it that said Rogan was set up to take his place? I thought it was me, wasn't it?
Yeah.
This is what's happened. I could not have foreseen him asking Jones back. I mean, I've got to watch some of that video.
It's a 4-hour marathon. I'll tell you what, like I say, I did 15 minutes and I thought, nah, I can't be doing that shit. And then and even though I don't subscribe to any of these channels, you know, I'm seeing it all pop up in my recommended feeds and, you know, and all that. Because if you just click on one video, as you know, with YouTube, the algorithm just starts giving you all those related channel stuff anyway. So half the time you don't need to subscribe to any of these freaky channels.
That's another reason why they want certain topics to become popularized or trendy, because they've deliberately weighted their algorithm to favor those topics. Yeah. So that, you know, the ones I mentioned last week, the ones that I've sort of mentioned a bit tonight, if you click on one video, all of a sudden your feed, your recommended videos will be saturated with that stuff.
Yeah.
That's partly, I know it can, plausible deniability effect. They will try to claim that the reason that happens is because there's just so many of those videos and they're so popular, but that answers its own question, yeah, in the sense of, well, why is this so popular? Is it because you keep putting it in front of everybody? And when somebody clicks one of those videos for the next several days, that's what they're going to be presented with constantly. So they're actively using nudge tactics to put this stuff under your nose.
Do you know that Stephen Jones was getting interviewed on Rogan? He was saying that and experiencing his own psychosis, you know what, you know. So
say the last bit again, please, Dave. You broke up.
Our beneficent technocratic leaders are trying to on Rogan, you know what I mean. You had Alex Jones on there. That's who I thought you were talking about when you were talking about a fun guy, the fun G, the fun G, you know, like the belt and the. When being a comedian and that, you know, but well, one of the concepts was about redemption, you know, and the other one was about free speech, basically. But that was my main point on that, you know.
Well, Alex Jones actually came out and said, like, "Oh, I watched that conspiracy stuff and it made me all mad, but I'm better now."
Yeah.
It was basically
been saying that, yeah.
Basically saying that it led to a psychosis when looking into all this sort of. Alternative information, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you correlate that with the push that's been building up for the last several years now, really, of how we all need to talk about mental health. Mental health is the new big problem. This is the main agenda that we've all got to address. Mental health, mental health, mental health. Crazy conspiracy theorists online are making people crazy. You're making people crazy. You talk about weird shit.
In the UK, they're trying to tell you. They're trying to tell you in the UK, 1 in 4 of you have got mental health problems, right? So that's not mental health problems anymore. It's a mental health norm, which means that you live in a sick society, which means that you require the guidance of your beneficent technical. I mean, that's the way it works.
Yeah.
But if that's true, when are they going to test Parliament? We'll be expecting, at least a quarter of them get kicked out.
Yeah.
Stop talking common sense. Common sense is not allowed. You can have free speech, but no common sense.
It's only the peasants who are in that, That's it. Just us lot. They don't count themselves.
They're their own vaccines that are better quality without any mercury in them. So, all right. And no fluoridated water.
When you're talking about common sense, Cookie, and see the shocking content, the sort of clickbait stuff, I just wish there was a hyperbole filter, that we could get, that would just get rid of all that tabloid stuff and could just get down to the meat of the pie.
That political paradigm thing you mentioned as well about an interest you brought, a wide shut channel, website, and that left and right thing, right from back in the day, it's like just just imagine a bird, left and right wing, it's part of the same body anyway. It's controlled by the center who's fueling each side for its own benefit to steer it whichever way it's going to go. And you just see that happening more and more and more. BBC given that sort of negative aspect to it, but at the same time still promoting it, still giving it that airtime, still giving it that sort of rise of this thing is there and we're talking about it. And
it reinforces the dualistic position that they want the majority of the people to be in. They want you to think in a dualistic way, what other people would call black and white thinking, or like the checkerboard on the lodge floor, or like the band around the
so they can divide you.
And they know that reality is not dualistic. They know that there are more levels to it than that. And they utilize things such as the power of 3 to be perpetually above you as you're milling around on the dualistic floor, the chessboard.
But the dualism is just a step towards what they're going towards, and that's Joe Rogan who's shown you that, because he's taken the Alex Jones right-wingism and he's mixing elements of that social justice warrior things in to create the amalgamation they want, just the one party, the one state. Yeah?
The technocracy.
Aye.
Because now the AIs will tell us what the best morals are for our survival.
But see how how dumbed down that was, though, that whole thing. You could see just the clips I'd seen as well. Just you had that other idiot on there, Bravo, whatever his name is, and just the whole
Eddie Bravo.
Yeah, so it was just a circus of shit, and anyway, I'm glad I didn't put myself through the whole
Eddie Bravo's there for the flat earth stuff.
Yeah, it's all getting thrown in, the whole thing, and a big laugh and a big joke, a big is Gary gone?
Yeah, must be that time. Thanks for joining us, Gary.
Cheers, Gary.
Yeah, cheers, man. But yeah, I just want anyway, I've said enough about that.
It was quite interesting, that show, you know what I mean? It was sort of raising all the questions, especially on the back of that the guy from Twitter, Jack, whatever his name was,
Poser bitch.
But somebody will write it in the chat, hopefully,
It's great how they limit your awareness, though. The people watching that, they get the millions of views, and people regularly sort of tune into these two, and it's just that limited awareness, and it's entertainment. Oh, it's just entertainment. It's like, yeah, but it's.
I think that it's been like the false censorship, see, like that, the sort of Sex Pistols sort of if you pretend they're banned, they're going to be a lot more popular, sort of thing. That's why they've, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
shut Alex Jones down, and then
Yeah.
they brought him back on the king of the podcast, you know what I mean, so that he can fucking bring him back into the social discourse and all that, you know what I mean. And
it's the theatre.
as you say, he's been a naughty boy. He's been a
Yeah.
naughty boy, you were saying earlier, Peter, you know.
Yeah, he's been put on the naughty step. But no, I just think, yeah, this whole thing's just one big theatre in that realm, and they're doing a massive disservice to the whole thing, and took one big giant shit on it, really, the pair of them, over time.
I'm going to put up a screen share as this relates to dualism and Brexit and just a lot of the stuff that's going on at the moment.
Yeah, there you go.
And you could change, I thought about doing this the other night, you could change the bit where it says arguing over which politician to vote for. You could change that to arguing over the shape of the planet, or arguing over the shape of the place we live on. You know, so then they can't complain, oh, you use the word planet. Oh. No, arguing over the shape of the world you live on. Yeah. It's not going to make all the problems go away. So it's just the same as arguing over politicians.
I'm glad I've had my tea anyway.
It's a wedge issue, just another wedge issue, a conveyor belt of wedge issues were presented to in order to divide us.
Yep. And I'd say as well to nudge us in certain directions. So then when they start the next lot of suggestions, you know, when they start suggesting things, oh, wouldn't it be good if we did this or had that, or you allow us to do, you're
predictive programming.
You're predisposed to accepting it because they've already planted the seed with you.
It's already there. Yeah, they've already sort of. It's almost like we said it before. You know, years ago they already had this already worked out which direction it's, you know, going. How they can, like you say, plant the psyops, plant the, you know, the types of energy they want out there to get people to, you know, respond to certain other stimulus and other stuff. It's all, you know, they know what's coming. They know the technology, what's coming as well. I mean, we're just getting the new, I mentioned it before we came on, the HoloLens 2, which Microsoft have just promoting heavily at the moment, which is the new virtual reality kind of headset thing. And it's this new type of system where, as you log into it, you know, it basically, you put the screen on or whatever. It's like a little fighter pilot, little goggles or whatever. They look, you know, pretty cool and all the rest of it. But it's actually reading your iris. That's how you log in. It's the only way you can log into it. Read your iris, and then it knows your eye movement. It knows your hand movement. It links in all this way, and yeah, you can see what direction they want us to go in, don't you? And if you watch that little upload video, I'll mention it on Wednesday, and I'll show you a little snippet of it. It's the way they want us to go, and it's switching away from, you know, reality. They want the virtual reality. So yeah.
Did you say they were trialing it at the moment?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's released yet, but
it's not commercially available yet.
But it was launched anyway. It was launched, and they had this launch thing for it. So I'm not sure what.
I'm not asking that because I'm thinking of buying one.
You don't want one, do you?
Just because I know people might be thinking, why is he asking if it's available? So, no, I'm just curious as to what is currently being put on the market for people to buy. Yeah?
Well,
I know there's a certain level of VR available at the moment.
They're selling it to the other aspect is for, you know, medical use, military and industrial technological stuff. If you say, you know, you're working on some, you know, component and engine, you can use the VR to strip the engine and stuff and look at it and whatever. And, you know, it's got all those applications which are good, but it's the other side, which then they take you into the fun world or whatever they've created and all that stuff. And, you know, the virtual worlds that people are now actually using and utilizing on, because people are using this stuff now, you know, it's just not really mass use. It's, you know, they want it to be mass use. They want it to be like that movie Brainstorm, you know, which we were mentioning before we came on, that Truth Stream Media upload. We were mentioning that, saying that was very hard to find that movie. Well, we were just saying we all watched it in the 80s. I was in all the video shops, you know. I watched that, you know.
I'm sure the adult industry won't be far behind as well.
Yeah,
with their applications,
they're probably leading the charge. Right?
Well, they are, because we did mention a documentary a couple of years ago called was it called Virtual Reality Virgins?
Yeah,
BBC released back about it's 2-3 years ago now, wasn't it? And that was the main aspect. That was they were the main developers behind all this, or putting the money in, because that's, you know, the sex industry will.
You couple that up with your vibrating doll, you know, you're
Yeah,
almost there.
it's like,
Or as they coined the phrase, the newly coined academic jargon for it is teledildonics.
it's like that movie Zero. Seen that movie Zero Theorem, where he puts the suit on?
Yeah.
It's like it's
masturbatorium.
But it's already here. It's you know, it's already here, but in small numbers, and the technology and the equipment will get more sophisticated.
Soon you will be able to have your own orgasmatron in your own home.
Yeah, it's coming. Excuse the pun.
And again, this is the kind of thing where I wanted to reference that point of view of, like, what are you talking about when you say morals and ethics and stuff like that? Because to me, that kind of stuff is immoral. Not because, restricting it to me is less immoral than allowing people to just do whatever with it. Because the way it's developing, we're going to end up with such hideous problems caused by this kind of stuff that trying to stop it afterwards is like closing the gate after the horse has bolted.
Exactly.
I was going to ask you, Cookie, who becomes the ultimate arbiter of the ethics then for the group?
The AI.
The AI, you're right.
That's what will happen eventually. The arbiter of all ethical structures, legal and social and whatever, you know, the legal infrastructure that's required for them to have a body of what they call ethics that they refer to, that will be done by AI. I guarantee.
Well, that's what your man Zoltan Evstan was saying the other day. He was saying that he prefers to be governed by technology. You know what I mean? He was like quite open about it.
I'm
saying
sure
that was the best way forward.
I'm sure he'll believe that until the drone turns up at his door and designates him as no longer purposeful.
Yeah.
You no longer serve a purpose, you will be repurposed. In other words, you'll be taken away and re-educated or broken down and your material used for something else.
But he's quite up for like the whole transhuman thing anyway, you know, like us like merging.
The AI to begin with, I think, this is speculation, but it's speculation based on educated opinion.
Sorry, I say he's quite in there. He's basically leading the charge, you know.
Yeah, but I think to begin with, the AI will probably quite amaze people with some of the things that it will create. It will cause to be a benefit to us all. Yeah, so the study of mass statistics of resource movements and stuff like that, logistical control, things like figuring out where certain illnesses are rising from based on studying the statistics, constantly monitoring live statistic updates on health issues. Yeah, AI systems will be able to look at that massive amount of data that a human being would not have a lifetime to be able to expend on looking through it. They'll be able to analyze it at, super speed, and certain results will come out of it, and we'll be like, wow, nobody ever knew that this shit was caused by that. Now we can address that problem and look at the amazing benefit we get from it. To begin with, that's what will happen, and that's what they'll use to sell this structure as being worth us replacing the general system of governance that already exists.
And religion, you know what I mean? He's like a digital Christ, a digital savior.
They'll only tell you the positive and not the real reasons and all the rest they can do with it.
Yeah, but that open doorway, that foot in the door effect of those initial benefits, it's like a honeymoon period. They only seem amazing and wonderful at the time because you've never experienced them before. So it's something new and fresh and invigorating, and it gives you that creative energy effect, yeah? But once that honeymoon period is over, and then the AI system starts suggesting, or maybe by the time this happens, it won't be a suggestion, it will just be enacted, because a lot of the other subsystems will also be automated. But when it starts enacting things equivalent to the care pathway, where it says, oh, well, all these old people are completely useless to the system, to the organism as a whole, according to its analytical analysis or judgment, then it starts already processing them and getting rid of that excess, what it considers to be dead wood. And there is no human empathy involved then. There's no natural, guttural, instinct reaction that, hang on a minute, no, we've been able to cope with this stuff for millennia. We've already got systems in place that allow for these kind of things. We don't need to all of a sudden start killing those people off because somebody now is telling us that we don't need them anymore. If we don't need them now, how come they were still alive like in previous generations, or were allowed to live? Yeah? If you want to use that kind of judgmental perspective on it, or authoritarian perspective on it. The AI system will start making judgments based on machine efficiency.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Logan's Run.
Yeah.
Is there any way it can be stopped? AI becoming the ultimate arbiter of group ethics?
Stop feeding it. That's the only thing I can think of, is stop feeding it. Because the way it stands at the moment, if nobody, like the one image I put up from Leonardo, the nothing strengthens authority so much as silence. If nobody says anything, then absolutely the people that have got their fingers on the buttons and the levers will carry on doing what they're doing, and it will happen. But even though, put it this way, and I've said this before multiple times in the past, I know that often a lot of the things I say and I talk about, people will laugh at me for the kind of things I'm suggesting or considering. But I would rather be wrong than be right. And the reason I feel a need to voice these things now is, well, if somebody's going to laugh at someone for being wrong because they predicted such and such is going to happen and it never happened, I'll be that person getting laughed at. Yeah, because if nobody says it, because they're all afraid of being laughed at, then it will happen. It's as simple as that.
Silence is consent in many ways, in my opinion.
I mean, I'm not trying to claim that I've got any groundbreaking ideas of how you can stop this thing, like you're asking that question of how do you stop it. But at least at the minimum, to me, you begin by not being silent about it, even if you are just speculating about possibilities of how this technology could be used. But if you don't state those kind of things now, then when they turn around and somebody go, oh, I wonder what happens if we send a nuclear weapon up into the atmosphere just to see if the atmosphere burns. Oh, I wonder what happened. Nobody said no to them, so they pressed the fucking button and did it.
Or just something as innocent as Google forgetting to tell you there's a microphone in one of their devices that they told you there wasn't.
Yeah, plausible deniability. So stop feeding it in as many ways as you can and that you choose to. And when I say feeding it in terms of that AI, that means stop giving it as much data about you and your life and what you think and what you feel about everything and whether you're going to buy this item or that item or go on holiday there or go there. Well, stop it. Talk to your relations and your social group directly. Actually,
is it more than that though, Cookie? Is it more than that though? Are we on the cusp of becoming like a new being here, infused with this technology?
Yes, I think and feel, and to a certain degree, I feel that I know that we've already progressed to a certain degree. I think
inevitable, basically.
I don't think it's necessarily inevitable, but let's put it this way: I know we are at the end of the beginning. It's not the beginning of the end in that classic cliched sense, but we're at the end of the beginning. They've already spent now multiple decades, 4 or 5 decades, a century plus, putting these ideas into the general public consciousness. They built the system up to such a point now where the infrastructure is mostly in place. It's established. The spread of the infrastructure is global, which means their global netting of the space that we occupy is pretty much complete. That's why I say we're at the end of the beginning. Now there is this mid-push where they need to get people to accept this transition into what would basically I could describe as a digital existence, where your digital persona is worth more to you than your physical reality around
your real self. And
and you think about the way some of the social media stuff that's happened over the past 2, 3, 4 years. Yeah, you see what I mean about it's the end of the beginning. That change where there is an acceptance, a real deep acceptance in some people that, yeah, I'm going to exist in the tech. Forget this body, forget this reality. No, I'm going to live forever as a god in the tech. That means we're at the end of the beginning. The initiation of setting the structure and moving the snowball into momentum is already well established.
Lawnmower man as well. I just thought of that, you know.
The conclusion that I'm suggesting when I'm talking, like, you know, that kind of speculation on possible, you know, dark possibilities, I wouldn't say that's inevitable, but we're certainly careering towards it the way we're going.
Yeah, I just see it like full automation, universal credit rolled out, transformation of humanity. Humanity has to redefine itself, you know. It's the first thing people say, "Hi, I'm John and I'm a joiner," or whatever, you know. It's the first thing people define themselves by, usually their job, and that's all going to change, in my opinion, well, not my opinion, you know what I mean, but you listen to people like that, Ray Kurzweil or whoever, you know.
But if you get hooked into that virtual reality world, the way that this HoloLens 2 thing's showing you, the way it demos it to you, then that's more interesting than the real world. You get people just living in like boxes, and no matter their surroundings, really, they just put the headset on, and that's where they enjoy themselves. And they would just have a bed, a toilet, and maybe amenities to cook, and that would be it. They wouldn't need furniture because everything's happening in this virtual world you've just built for yourself. And
it can be whatever you want.
Exactly.
Right, man. Alan Watts said, "They'll have you digging a ditch and you'll think you're on holiday."
Yeah.
The ironic thing is he was in on some UN meetings where he would have got a good glimpse of the kind of direction we were going. So he wasn't saying that as just pure speculation. And I'm sure he probably rubbed shoulders with some of the connected, you know, the club. I mean, he himself potentially could have been connected into the club, but that doesn't deny the truth in what he said, you know, in what you quoted. So I'm going to have a quick scroll down the chat. I'll try and say hello. Please don't take offense if I miss you out, because I'm going to try and scroll quickly so that I'm not spending too long trying to, you know, get obsessed with the details, caught in the rabbit hole. I'll say a quick hello to everybody. There's quite a lot of chat in there tonight. Thank you for joining in, participating in the chat if you choose to, getting involved and posting comments. James Owen, hello mate. I thought I saw you pop in earlier. And Dino, hello. I can't say that without adding the O at the end. Dino. Iman Pudama. I'm still not sure I'm supposed to say that. Sorry, Iman. Blazing Stars, hello. And I know I saw several other people in there earlier. Age of Crocodilia, hello. Yeah, you don't want any of that Crocodilia stuff. That's nasty. Sui Generis, hello. And Alan McVicker, hello, mate. That face still makes me smile. The P face, P head.
You got a jam when I get sorted, mate.
Corinthian Dog, hello. Scrolling. Try and scroll a bit quicker. Keep those fingers scrolling on the digital existence. Dotty, hello. I know you were in there somewhere. And when you're not lurking. And Cardini, hello. Scroll quicker. man, you guys are posting a lot of stuff. It's going to take me a while to read back through that, but that's cool. Thank you for joining in. Roberta Carlos, hello. Coolio and authentic human programming, hello. Yeah, you definitely want the authentic, none of that faux stuff.
More human than human.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trans Wookiee still at the moment, I think. It just seems to keep growing to the same length. I'm waiting for it to, like, you know, really spread out. And I think I've scrolled back to the bottom of the chat box again. Yeah, so like I said, if I've missed you out, sorry, I was scrolling fairly quickly. I was trying to work through it. So I'm saying hello to as many people as I can. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for giving us your attention. Thank you to Steve, what you said on Saturday, and I agree with you, mate. People giving their attention is payment enough, I feel, for what we're doing. I'm very much appreciative if anybody does send money my way. You know, I've said that before, but really it was about just trying to get information and ideas across to people. So if you're paying attention, that's great. That's, you know, that's what matters. So thank you for tuning in and listening in. We'll be back on Wednesday night on the Reality Chat channel, talking about general news events and that kind of thing. Like we, you know, a little bit like what we do now, but it's a bit more looking at the media and what's been going on across the world during the week. Steve Tagoose will be on Saturday again with the mystery show on his channel, and the Raconteur News guys are on again tomorrow with a episode 250 special. I think because it's sort of like a little anniversary kind of thing. You know, they've got to 250 episodes, so they'll be having a general chat about that, I think. And yeah, hopefully they might have heard what I said. I know they were busy with their own broadcast earlier, but hopefully you hear what I said, and you know, you're not just taking offense just because you're taking offense. It's not meant to be offensive. To me, I'm more interested in doing this stuff to try and help people. So that's all I'm trying to get across. I'm not telling you what to do with your stuff. But anyway, yeah, before I waffle further and digress away all over the place, thanks again, folks. Take care. I'm going to click the button.
Cheers, Cookie.
Cheers, guys, for joining in.
Cheers, Cookie. Thanks, guys.